The sun peeked timidly through the heavy gray clouds as the three travelers emerged from Kazadum, carrying the unconscious girl on Hassan's horse. The scent of damp earth and sulfur rose from the cracked ground beneath their horses' hooves, while cold wind carried the metallic groan of the iron gates closing behind them like the wail of the dead. The clink of stirrups echoed with each step, mixed with silent, tense breaths. Inar was the first to break the silence. He raised his head toward the overcast sky, hand gripping the hilt of his sword as if afraid it might lunge at him on its own. "All of this feels like one endless nightmare," he said in a hoarse voice, his green eyes flashing with suppressed anger. "We should have thrown those stones away when we found them in Yellow Terror's trash heap. If I'd known they'd drag us into this hell, I would have buried them deep in the earth." He paused, then added bitterly, "And old Kola, that lying devil, if he'd been honest, he wouldn't have let us carry this curse around our necks." Mahdi didn't answer. He sat hunched over his saddle, eyes fixed blankly on the broken terrain. His right hand brushed the firestone at his throat. It pulsed with irregular warmth, as if beating like a sick man's heart. He wasn't listening to Inar. His mind was lost in visions. The girl standing at the edge of that strange world in his dreams, her hand outstretched, her lips moving without sound. "Mahdi!" Inar snapped, his voice cutting through the cold air. "Are you even listening, or are you waiting for divine revelation?" Mahdi slowly lifted his head, as if waking from a trance. "I hear you," he said simply, but his gaze remained distant, as though Inar's words passed through him untouched. Hassan turned his horse between them, hands resting on the warhammer strapped to his back. "Enough, Inar," he said in his calm voice, the kind that always came before a storm. "Anger won't take us back. We don't have a choice but to keep moving." He looked down at the girl in his arms, her pale face pressed against his chest like a shattered piece of glass. "She needs us now, not another fight between brothers." "She?" Inar exploded, pointing a trembling finger at the girl. "She's the one who brought all this. Have you forgotten how she nearly threw herself into the fire, how her blood covered the floor like a sacrifice?" He stepped closer to Hassan, eyes blazing. "What makes you think she deserves any of this? Is it because you left Sarah to burn in that house, so now you're trying to save her to wash away your guilt?" The air froze. Even the horses stopped moving, sensing danger. Hassan's eyes narrowed, his hand slowly rising toward the warhammer's handle. "Don't speak her name," he whispered, but the words were sharp as a blade. "It wasn't my choice to leave her. It was the darkness waiting beyond that door." "Darkness?" Inar laughed dryly. "The darkness is inside us. Do you really think this girl is different? Look at her. She doesn't even know who she is." "Because she's lost her memory," Mahdi cut in, calm but firm. "Not because she isn't worth saving." He met Inar's eyes directly, his dark brown gaze steady. "If you want to run, go. Leave the stone here. Walk away in any direction you choose, but I won't abandon her." Inar exhaled sharply, pulling his hands from his swords. "You're insane, Mahdi." More than insane, but he didn't move. He returned to his horse, eyes locked on the dark horizon. It wasn't long before the sounds began. Soft footsteps in wet grass, the rustle of leaves moved by unseen hands. The group halted instantly, hands instinctively reaching for weapons. From behind the mist-laden trees, 3 men emerged, faces hidden under filthy cloth, knives stained with rust. The tallest among them had broad shoulders like boulders, cold blue eyes glinting with cruelty. "That's all you're carrying," he sneered, gesturing mockingly at their gear. "3 men and an unconscious woman? Looks like you're begging for death." Mahdi didn't respond. He studied the men, too organized for common bandits. Their weapons crude, but their movements precise like soldiers. "Who sent you?" he asked, voice low like water before boiling. The tall man laughed, drawing a short sword. "We don't care about questions. Your money, your weapons." And the girl Mahdi didn't wait. In one swift motion, his sword flashed from its sheath, slicing the air. The first strike was fast, precise, aimed at the leader's weapon hand. Steel bit flesh. A muffled cry escaped as the knife fell from his grip. The fight was brutal, but brief. Inar moved like a shadow, dual blades gleaming in the dim light, parrying wild swings, countering with deep cuts. 2 attackers fell quickly, blood soaking the cracked soil. The third tried to flee, wounded in the thigh. Hassan was faster. He swung his war hammer, a dull thud, and the man collapsed, blood spraying across the ground. "One got away," Hassan said, breathing heavily as he examined the deep gash on his arm. Blood trickled steadily, but he ignored it. "Doesn't matter," Mahdi replied, collecting the discarded knives. "If he returns, we'll deal with him." He glanced at Inar, wiping blood from his brow. "You all right?" "Fine," Inar said with a hollow smile. "But tell me, was this just bad luck, or do they already know we're carrying her?" Mahdi didn't answer. He knew the question was valid, but he wasn't ready to admit it. When night fell, they set up camp in an open clearing, far from the skeletal trees swaying in the wind. Mahdi lit a small fire. Hassan laid the girl gently on a torn cloth blanket. She breathed steadily, but her face was pale, as if part of her soul had already fled. "What now?" Inar asked, sitting apart from the fire, eyes scanning the darkness. "Main roads are watched. The forest ahead is crawling with danger. We follow the whispering forest," Mahdi said, pulling out an old yellowed map from his satchel. Its edges were frayed, ink faded. "Zahed gave us this in Kazadum." 3 paths, the main road, crawling with eyes, the mountain pass shrouded in fog, and the whispering forest. He looked at Inar. "It's the only route no one sees." "Even if it's cursed Zahed?" Inar scoffed. "You trust that lying old fraud?" "He didn't force us," Mahdi replied calmly. "The map was a choice. We chose to believe him." "A choice?" Inar laughed bitterly. "There are no choices here, Mahdi. Every path is a trap. The forest is haunted. The others are watched. Even if we reach the city, we'll be rats in a cage." Hassan stepped in, voice quiet, but firm. "The forest is the safest. Zahed said it's half dead, but it hides footprints. Hides us, Zahed." Inar spat, gesturing at the sleeping girl. "You really think he wants to help? He knows what she carries. That's why he gave us the map." He paused, lowering his voice. "Maybe he's the one who sent those men today." No one answered. Mahdi knew suspicion had taken root in Inar's mind, and part of him feared it wasn't wrong. At midnight, the girl stirred, her eyes snapped open wide, as if she'd seen something monstrous in her sleep. Her body trembled. One hand rose to her forehead, where healing wounds still bore dark marks. "Where am I?" she whispered, voice rough like torn paper. Mahdi stood, stepping toward her carefully. "You're in the land of shadows," he said softly. "We're trying to help you." "The land of shadows?" she repeated, eyes darting around as if searching for memories. "How did I get here?" That's what we're trying to find out, Inar answered, watching her with suspicion. You're safe now, Hassan said, offering a gentle smile. Don't be afraid. What's your name? Mahdi asked, keeping his tone calm. Sarah, she answered hesitantly, as if the word slipped out unbidden. Sarah, Mahdi repeated, noticing how the name resonated with his dreams. What happened to you? She pressed her hands to her face, fingers trembling. I don't know. Everything's foggy. I remember a voice calling my name. Then darkness. She looked at Mahdi, tears welling in her eyes. Who am I? Mahdi didn't answer. He knew the truth ran deeper than any of them could grasp. By morning, they reached the edge of the forest. The trees here were unlike any other, not green like the forests of Mahdi's past, but scorched, half-dead, branches twisted like dying arms reaching for salvation. The air was thick, reeking of ancient decay. No bird sang, no insects hummed, only silence, broken occasionally by faint whispers, as if the earth itself were breathing. The forest stretched before them like an open wound in the world. Trees stood crooked, trunks deformed as if they'd screamed 1,000 years ago and never stopped. Some leaned unnaturally, as if collapsing before fully dying. The ground was soft, giving slightly underfoot, making odd sucking sounds. Light barely pierced through. Sunbeams fractured across brittle leaves, casting pale yellow stains on the soil. There was no wind, yet the branches twitched now and then for no reason. This is the Whispering Forest, Mahdi said, running his fingers over the tattered map. Zahed was right. No tracks, no watchers. Inar sighed, raising his sword. If I die in there, don't bury me. Let me rot as a warning. Hassan took a deep breath, placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. We'll be careful. Mahdi took the first step forward. The shadows closed around them instantly, as if the forest had swallowed them whole.